All right. If you are about to sell an investment property and you haven't talked about a 1031 exchange, they could be leaving tens of thousands of dollars, maybe even more, thousands and thousands of dollars on the table. That's what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff. How to keep more money in your pocket.
Everybody wants to do that, especially these days. Feels
Thousands.
like they're trying to take all the money out of your pocket. Got to keep what you can, right?
That's right. And every day it becomes more and more and more. So the question is, do you know what a 1031 exchange is and why you would use it? And I think this is really important, especially we were talking about this on another podcast briefly because it was part of another tax discussion. But we talked about how sometimes people have to pay above and beyond the $250 or the $500 and they have to pay taxes on that and they don't know. Some people don't know that they can just defer it. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Okay. But it depends on what type of property it is.
Yes, that's true.
So it can't just be any home. Like we were talking about your primary residence being able to exempt a portion of that. But this is really the benefit for investment properties.
That's right. So if you're an investor, this is one of the benefits of having property is you can purchase property and then, I hate to use the term kicking the can down the road, but essentially you're allowed to not pay tax, defer it. You're not allowed to pay, you don't have to pay taxes until one day when you actually make the exit on your properties. And
we want to be clear, a 1031 exchange is not getting rid of taxes. Like Frank said, it's deferring taxes until you finally sell it and don't buy another one in exchange. So, I mean, you can do multiple 1031 exchanges and just keep kicking the can down the road. But eventually, when you finally do sell it and just take the money, they're going to get their share.
That's right.
So also, we should say we are real estate agents and builders.
There we go. There's
CPAs. I always have to keep the legal. But yeah,
there's
we're
the
not
disclaimer.
CPAs, and this is not tax advice. This is just information, so you can ask your CPA, and they can help you because everybody's financial situation is really so individual to each person. And somebody owning the same property might have two completely different tax scenarios, depending on your whole portfolio, your income, your CPA even. So this is just really advice for people that are investing in real estate and things to think about and ask about, because it's really important. If you ask about it after you've already purchased a home, it's too late.
That's right.
So
it's also really important to understand that this is one of the largest benefits of having real estate, but you have to be long-term gratification oriented. Because the goal here is to buy a property that qualifies, like Tiffany said. So it's an investment property that qualifies, and then you're deferring the gain. So you never, let's say you buy a property, it makes a bunch of money, and in a couple of years, you want to sell it and get that money. You can't do that with a 1031 exchange. You have to play by the rules and you have to play the game, which is I am going to not take the profits out, and we'll talk about what this process looks like. But you're basically saying, I'll just roll it into another property. And you don't take any of that money and use it for yourself. And you keep doing that. And as long as you keep doing that the right way and follow the rules, you never have to pay tax until you actually finally pull it
cash out.
But that could be 20 years from now, 30 years from now. So you're essentially saying, great, I'll take advantage of that, or I'll spend that money, or I'll use that money someday down the road, but it isn't going to be right now.
But what it does give you is the ability to get into a property that you might not have been able to if you had to pay taxes on that. So it helps you have more equity in the new property.
That's right.
So it makes a lot of sense. It doesn't make sense most of the time if you're like, I'm going to sell this one investment property, buy this other one, put all the money from that one into that one without doing a 1031 exchange. Like you said, it only really makes sense if you need the cash now. You need to
Yes.
cash out for whatever reason. But if you're planning to just move that money into a new investment property and not take any of it, then 1031 exchange really should be something you're talking to your attorney and your CPA and your real estate agent about. So,
And this is reported on what they call a Form 8824, I believe. So it's a specific form you have to fill out and you have to go through a process, but it has to be a like kind exchange. So we can throw up a
let's just
sheet
say,
that kind of
what is a 1031 exchange?
All right, we'll follow Tiffany's organized slides here. So what is a 1031 exchange?
Okay, so
you sell an investment property.
Jinx.
I said it first and said it better.
You buy another investment property.
Yes. And then you defer the capital gains. So if you make money, anything that's a gain on what you paid, you defer it. You're not paying it right away. And then you
defer the depreciation that you had claimed. So when you have an investment property, we've talked about this before, that you can claim depreciation, and some people claim it with such as a cost segregation study or something like that. You claim a lot of the depreciation in advance. So when you do sell, they want to take that back, right? It's deferring that kind of thing. So the gain, depreciation.
It's deferring the depreciation recapture. Yeah. And again, it's not for your primary home. So you have to remember that. And you need to use a qualified intermediary.
What's that, Frank?
Usually an attorney.
Or it can be a CPA.
It could be a CPA. And they will hold the money in an account, right? And no one can touch it. They will hold the money, and they will make sure that it doesn't get touched by anybody. That's really the point.
I think that's the biggest thing that people don't know is you can't touch any of the money, or you won't qualify typically. Right. So you have to do this up front. For example, in South Carolina, we have a due diligence contract. That due diligence fee isn't paid unless the buyer backs out. But in North Carolina, that due diligence fee is actually paid up front with the contract. So you need to talk to your qualified intermediary and your attorney and your CPA and say, can I even accept the due diligence money? Because they might say, no, if you do that, you can't do the 1031 exchange. And that's a big deal. So that's why it's important to have this plan before you even go under contract, so you know exactly what you're looking at and how much that you're going to qualify for that 1031 exchange.
And makes me think of, since we're on the topic, if you have done a 1031 exchange, I'd like to know about your experience. Are you thinking about doing a 1031 exchange? And even did you know about a 1031 exchange? This is what we do all the time. So we have our contact info up here. You can call 704-910-9111 and ask us, and we can help you. Or you can email Frank at Carolina Crafted Homes or Tiffany at Carolina Crafted Homes. But the point is that we do this all the time. And so we have these relationships. At least ask the questions and know what you're doing. But you want to make sure that you don't make a mistake, because this could cost you a lot of money. This is how you build wealth.
And I think a lot of people believe that things like a 1031 exchange, they're like, oh, those are just the corporate investors or the big investors that really have all this stuff going on. No, it's not. If you have one investment property, you can use a 1031 exchange when you sell it. So this really could be, if you have one or if you have 50, it doesn't matter. Anybody can use that.
Yeah.
With an investment property.
That's right. And this also, we won't get into the financial part of it, but it allows you to take that money and then just keep reinvesting it, which compounds your money. And so that's really how building wealth happens. It very rarely happens overnight. And so it's
a long process.
It's taking advantage of the tax code, and it wants you to use these tactics.
So a lot of people, there's been a lot of things going around in the finance industry, like this is going to change, this is going to be taken away. For example, the cost segregation was being taken away. Now it was put back into effect. Well, there was big talks about 1031 exchange being taken away, But the 2025 tax code under the beautiful big bill said that 1031 exchange is here to stay. So it is still here, in case you were wondering. And that's something to clear up, because I think a lot of people weren't sure if that was going to stick around.
Well, there's always talk, and that's why we're doing this, because there's always talk of new legislation. For example, I think recently, in like the last day, Trump just talked about indexing capital gains for inflation, which is a monumental, that can be huge. We haven't changed the capital gains rates, if I'm not mistaken, since 1997.
Yeah.
That's a big deal, because prices are way different than they were in 97. So stuff like that can change or not. There's always a lot of talk, whether it actually goes through Congress and does what it needs to do. But this is actually something you can use right now.
10 years down the road, legislation might change and you might not have a 1031 option, but right now you do. So
that's right. Let's talk about the deadlines.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing you have to be aware of. First, don't touch the money, and 2 is the deadlines, right?
That's right. So you need to find an intermediary. And then the 2 are the deadlines. The next point is the deadline. So you have 45 days and 180 days.
Yes.
So what's the difference?
Within the 45 days of closing on the property that you're trying to do the 1031 exchange for, you have to identify the property that you want to purchase. So not 60 days, not 46 days, within the 45-day period, you have to identify a property that you are trying to purchase with those funds.
That's right.
And then you have 180 days to close on the property, acquire the property. So hopefully it wouldn't take that long to get a property, but you never know. If it was in like a probate situation or something and it was a good deal, it might take longer. But the 180 days is not on top of the 45. The 45 is included in that 180-day period. So the faster you identify a property, the easier.
That's right. Start early would be a tip. But one of the things that's really important is you cannot miss this deadline.
Right.
If you miss this deadline, there is no deferred exchange.
But again, this is another reason why you can't just go willy-nilly and list your property and not tell anybody you're trying to do this. You really have to know ahead of time. You have to tell your real estate agent, you tell your attorney, you talk to your CPA about it, and you find a qualified intermediary up front. That's so important. Otherwise, you could miss all of the, and it's not a lot. It seems like it might be overwhelming to say, oh, I have to do this, it's too much. No, it's not a lot, but it is a process that you do have to follow.
Well, and that's what a professional is for.
Right.
So you could do it on your own. Okay. But if you are someone who's like, wow, I just don't want to have to deal with this. I just want some professionals to take over and take control. That's where we come in. That's where the intermediary comes in. That's where your CPA comes in. Like we can.
Well, you're
help.
required to have the qualified intermediary. That's
got to happen
like
no matter
QI.
what. Yeah.
You can't do that on your own. You cannot. Yeah. And sometimes, you know what? There's not that many QIs out there. You'd think that you can just call any CPA, any attorney. Like there's really not that many.
Yeah,
so
really
you need to know up front who is doing that for you, so you're not rushing around trying to find somebody at the last second.
I like how you're using the abbreviations QIs.
Well, it's like
you're
a long word.
It sounds like you're in the know. QIs.
I try to seem like I'm in the know sometimes. Is it working? Just a little?
Maybe. I don't know. Let's ask everybody else.
Take a vote. Can we take a live vote?
I guess we could.
Is Tiffany in the know?
We can. Okay. So we have a real Myrtle Beach example.
I love examples.
Yeah, I know. So this is a $400,000 condo sale. The sale price is $400,000. The adjusted basis is $250,000. So the estimated gain is $150,000. And that means that the potential tax deferred with the 1031 is about $35,626.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money you could blow if you don't. So if you sold the property, you would lose that.
You would lose it. It would just be gone to the government forever and ever. And you can't use that to then build on top of what you've already gained to get a better property, because
the cap gain would be $25,000.
Yeah.
The depreciation recapture is about $6,250, and then the South Carolina tax is about $43.76. So yeah, that's crazy. So $35,000 you could defer.
Yeah. And this is, of course, just an example because, again, you might have claimed way more depreciation than that, or you might have claimed less depreciation than that. But this is just an overall, like typical investors do claim depreciation. And this is the kind of scenario you're looking at saving with the new property. So think about that. If you were walking away with 100,000 or 135,000, that's a big difference in your next either payment or purchase, you know?
That's right. And I think this goes back to, I hate to beat a dead horse, but the long-term gratification piece is really, really important. So many tactics of what you can do to build wealth have to do with patience and thinking long-term, not like right now. And I get it. You're having a big check because you sell a property, but if this is something you're doing on a regular basis, this makes sense. And this can make a huge difference in 20 years.
Well, this is another strategy. So there's a real estate strategy of flipping a house. And then it's like quick money, right? So you can't do a 1031 exchange flipping houses.
That's right.
This is a strategy, like you said, that's more of a long-term play. And your favorite thing to say is it's not market time in the market.
Oh, Tiffany remembers. I've coined a phrase that Tiffany's going to use.
Yes.
It's not timing the market, Tiffany.
Market.
It's time in the market.
Yes. Yes. See, patience is a virtue. That's mine.
That's right.
So
if you're in it long enough, then you reap the rewards. But if you try and time it perfectly, you're going to get burned.
But think about that. Also, that equity that you are not paying taxes on, you're putting into the property. Maybe it helps you, let's say 4 properties down, you've built so much equity and deferred the taxes, that you can pay for something in cash. And maybe then it's just an income stream for you. And then you're just getting rental income or whatnot from the property and hopefully gaining more appreciation along the way.
And there's other tricks and things you can do down the road if you want to try and do something with that money when you finally take it out. But the point we're trying to make is use the 1031 exchange to your advantage. This is how you build wealth. This is how you avoid taxes on properties. And you just have to say, okay, I don't need the money right now. And if you do it, then you benefit.
Yeah. But in the right situation, you could, like I said, get rental income right now.
Yes.
Or some sort of income from the property, but it might not just be that huge chunk. It's like little pieces along the way, especially as you start to build that equity.
So let's talk a little bit about Airbnbs.
Because that's huge in the Myrtle Beach area.
Yeah, we're a vacation destination. This has become a big thing over the years, as well as, some people now are saying, oh, don't do Airbnb, but that's another story.
Well, Airbnb is... It's kind of like Kleenex is like tissue, but everybody says it. Really, it's a vacation rental property or a short-term rental property. There's a lot of things outside of Airbnb that you can rent a property on. But anyway, the first thing is it may or may not qualify. So if you call us and say, I have an Airbnb property, that doesn't automatically say, Frank, yes, you can do a 1031 exchange. Because you have to have owned the property for at least 24 months consecutively, first of all. And then also, how much are you using the property? Because that goes into the classification of whether it's an investment property or a personal type of like second home type property.
That's right.
And
so
they
you have to make sure you stay within the
restrictions.
parameters of an investment property.
Yeah. And they have restrictions on how much you can use the property before it falls out of that investment property status. And a lot of people might not know that. So they are like getting their Airbnb and using it, let's say 6 months of the year during the off season. And then they're like, oh, what's an Airbnb? So I'm going to do a 1031 exchange. Well, you probably unqualified yourself by staying there that long, because that's more becoming of a second home. So again, we're not CPs or attorneys, but based on the rules, that's really not allowed.
Yeah. And it also comes down to doing the research first. It's funny. Most people don't want to do these types of tactics because that's more work. It takes some time. They have to do the research. It's not going to be easy if you want to avoid paying $35,000, $100,000, $200,000 in taxes. But if you do want to avoid that, then you got to do this research and you got to understand the rules and you got to think ahead. But if you're willing to do that, this makes sense, but you got to be willing to follow
No,
the
you have to be
rules.
willing to follow it, and you just know ahead of time. So the rule is either 10% of the days rented or 14 days, whichever is greater.
Mhm.
So let's say you rented it for 200 days out of the year. How many days are you allowed to use it, Frank?
What was the question?
Oh my gosh. He doesn't listen to me half the time anyway. So you are allowed to use your property and still qualify as an investment either 10% of the nights you've rented it or 14 days total, whichever one is greater. So if you rented for 200 nights, how
20.
many? Oh, good job, Frank. Yes, 20 nights. So you'd be able to use it for 20 nights and still be classified as an investment property.
You really put me on the spot there. What
I'm
if
sorry.
what if I wasn't good at math like I am? But I'm great at math. But
Y'all
what if I
didn't see, but
wasn't?
he has a calculator right here, and he was like, hey.
Yeah. But what if I wasn't? I mean, that was a risky move there. All right, we'll move on.
I'm sorry. He's going to kick me off the show.
Anyway.
So really that's the biggest thing is usage matters, how you use it, how long you've owned it. And so again, another reason to talk to your CPA, an attorney, and real estate agent.
One of the big important pieces of this, we play this game as well. You have to keep great records.
Yeah.
You have to keep records that show how much you used it, that prove just in case. You wouldn't want some kind of minor error in record
cost
keeping
you
to cost you at least $35,000, or it could be way more.
We're just using that as an example. Yeah, it could be huge. I mean, some investors have huge amounts that they're deferring, but this is a fair example for our area, really. But so don't get caught in that. And maybe if you've used it 6 months, the last couple of years, maybe the next 2 years, you just plan out, hey, I'm going to make it a pure investment property for the next 2 years so I can qualify. And that's what I'm going to do and come up with that long-term plan.
That's right. Yeah, it's planning again. It's planning and
planning, knowledge, and record keeping.
Yeah.
All these tax strategies, even going back to what we talked about with your own capital gains exemption on a residential property that is your primary residence. Again, we talked about how you have to keep really good records to be able to write off some things.
Well, think about this. If you could defer thousands and thousands of dollars after you buy a piece of property by using this, and this is one of many strategies, you put them all together and you can see how it compounds and you can lower your tax liability. The goal is not avoiding taxes. The goal is lowering your tax liability as low as possible. And so there's so many opportunities to do this in many ways. This is just one. So if this is something that you find interesting, then you should reach out to us because there's many other, or a CPA, but there's many different ways that you can do this. So this is just one of them.
It all goes back to strategy and your overall plan. So we had financial planners, and the first meeting was only about what are your goals? And then it backtracked, how do we reach those goals? And so again, that's a lot of time and patience, but you got to start somewhere. Yep. So a lot of people that you see that are having really a lot of success in the investment realm, it wasn't overnight for the most part. It's people that have been doing the hard things for a long time and sticking it out.
That's
and
right.
So yeah, it can be a great tool though.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, what's the next slide we got here? Oh, things to consider in South Carolina.
Yeah, so South Carolina wants to take their money from your gain. So not the wholesale, but whatever you're claiming as your gain. They do have a 44% exemption. So essentially, let's say 100% of your gain, they take off 44% of it, and then they only tax you on the 56% left. So the current tax of that 56% that's left is 5.21%. And that, again, is on the gain, not the whole amount of the sale. They take the amount of the sale minus depreciation, all the things. They take your final gain that you're declaring, less 44% of that, and then multiply by 5.21%. Did you stick with me on that
Yeah, I
calculation.
mean, you kind of went through it fast. I'm sure everybody's like, what?
I like rewatch that.
But I think, look, the point is that every state is going to do something different. So all states have different tax rates. So you have to understand the laws in that state. But this comes down to also just renting and what states would you like to have a rental in. And you got to look at laws for landlords and tenants and which one do you want to be in. Then you got to look at where people are moving to, and you got to look at there's all things,
vacationing too,
tons of places to consider. And then one of the considerations is, okay, what's the state going to do to me if I have a profit or if I move or whatever the case. I mean, some states are coming after people once they leave the state. It's insanity. So I mean, you really got to understand other aspects of it, but the point is that you can build wealth through this tool, and it's a really good one. So,
and the South Carolina 44% reduction isn't stacked on top of the 1031. So it's not like you're like taking off the 44% and then rolling it into, it's not. It's only when you declare that gain. So talk to your CPA also about, like, potentially, let's say that you're moving your investment property out of the state of South Carolina, there could be tax implications, and you might have to pay that gain or the out-of-state withholding tax that we've talked about. So you definitely want to talk to your CPA, your attorney, ahead of time, and make sure you know the whole scenario, depending on whether you're buying a new property here in the state of South Carolina after you sell it, or if you're taking that money and moving out of state. That could change your scenario. So
that's right. It is really important. So yeah.
I mean, there's not much I think the biggest thing also is, let's say that your property is in XYZ LLC, and then you want to buy the new property in your name and my name, let's say. You can't do that. So when you do transfer and exchange that property, it has to be in the exact name of the current owner of the property. And I just went through this with a client because they were putting both husband and wife on the new purchase contract, and the QI, qualified intermediary, said, no, we need you to remove the wife because it was only in the husband's name, the original property that they had sold. Even though they're buying it together, owning it together, everything, it happened to be that they had only put it into his name. So again, that has to match. And so it was an easy fix on the contract, but it's all those little things that you want to think about and know ahead of time, that you can't just be moving this into different names, LLCs, whatnot. It has to be in the same one.
I'm curious to know, if you're watching or if you watch this later, would a 1031 exchange entice you to purchase a property? We help people buy, sell, invest. Would this and build, but would this help make you say, I want to get an investment property, or would it not really change your motivation at all? And I'm just interested in how many people are watching this that do invest in property and didn't know about a 1031 exchange. So if you are aware and you have experience with that, I'd love to hear your story. A lot of people don't know about 1031 exchanges.
I think it'd be so bad if, like, let's say that we sold one of our condos and we just took the money, and then 6 months later we decided to buy another condo for it. We just really shot ourselves in the foot because we paid all that money to the government that we could have deferred and avoided at that time, and maybe purchased a nicer property or come out of pocket less money. So that would really hurt if you found out about it too late and you'd like, man, because you can't really go back and have a redo once you sell it.
Yeah, so. But you don't, and that's why we do these videos, because we're trying to help people know and understand what their options are, because we want you to be able to take advantage of stuff like this. But if someone doesn't do a video on it and put it out there, then you don't know. Unless you go looking and then you just stumble across it, which is kind of what happened to me. So,
but again, you can start, say you don't even have an investment property, but you're thinking about it. Okay, this is a good start, because now you know, okay, in the future, if I sell it, what am I looking at? What can I plan for? How many days should I be using it once I buy it? So you can really start from scratch here, as long as you know this, and we can help you come up with a long-term strategy. Like, okay, we have a lot of doctor friends and they have a lot of income and they need write-offs because they're paying a ton of taxes. Maybe buying an investment property is a good idea. Start there. And then maybe you do some things to it and you do a cost segregation study and you claim depreciation on it along the way. Then maybe we plan to upgrade you to a nicer property. So, I mean, you can really start from zero with still thinking about a 1031 as a part of your future investment strategy.
100%. It's a good tool. All right.
Yeah.
The beautiful bill, big beautiful bill update. You already talked about that, so we don't need to go over that. Is there anything else on a 1031 exchange that you can think of that we need to update everybody
Well, I mean,
on?
it's really, you don't want to bore. It's not that complicated.
Yeah, it's really not.
I think
So-
people just don't know what they
Yeah.
don't know, and so it's scary, to think about.
So let's just review before we're done.
Okay.
So you purchase an investment property. Okay. You decide to sell that investment property
After 2 years of owning it.
of owning. Then when you go to sell, you have to give the money to a qualified intermediary. You have to identify a property within 45 days. And you have to actually complete the transaction and the move within 180 days.
Of your closing date
your
of that
closing date.
original property.
That's right.
And you cannot touch a dime of
You
the money.
can't touch a dime.
And you can't use the property that you're qualifying for more than 14 days or 10% of the days rented.
And it has to be a like-kind exchange. So you can't.
I think people think that, but like kind has a broad.
Yes, it does. It's very broad.
So people say, oh, I have to buy a condo and then a condo. No, it's not really. That's not really the case.
It's not that formal.
No. So I think people could be stuck up on that a little bit. It is, you do have to consider that. And that's another thing to ask the question about. But just because you bought a condo or sold a condo doesn't mean you have to buy another
But the
condo.
like kind doesn't mean type of property. It just means
Right.
condition, like that's what
you're
I think they mean.
using. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a rental property.
Yeah. So that's a good summary of what it is. And then pay attention to state and local taxes.
And pay attention to tax codes that
Yes.
might change from time to time, depending on who is in office and how they're voting things
Yes.
in and out. So,
And I'll tell
I
you-
mean, things aren't guaranteed forever, right?
No. But what you could do is nowadays with AI, Claude, ChatGPT, what you could do is you could find books that are great on tax strategy or real estate taxes, and then ask Claude or ChatGPT to summarize that book and tell you, what can I take advantage of if I'm going to sell my investment property? And it will help you get it organized so that you can bring it or understand it before you go to find a real estate agent. So
It's like the Cliff Notes.
it's
back
like
in
the
day.
it's like the Cliff Notes, yeah. But that's really all you need to do. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to take advantage of this. You just need to do it. So if
I think
you,
that's the biggest thing with any real estate transaction.
for sure,
You know?
for sure. But you need to know about it and you need to take advantage of it. So
Yep.
I hope this helped. If you have questions, we have our contact info below, whether you're watching now or later, and we're here to help. We want you to contact us. We get people that contact us all the time. We'd love to help you buy, sell a home, renovate, build. We also do short-term rental management,
Yeah.
right? So we can help you with anything. You just need to call 704-910-9111 or email us at Frank or Tiffany at carolinacraftedhomes.com
Or info@carolinacraftedhomes.
or info@carolinacraftedhomes.com, and we can help you. So we'll see everybody on the next video. We've got some big stuff coming in the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
So
exciting stuff.
excited to talk about that, but we'll see everybody on the next one. Thanks for tuning in.